Welcome to the Forest School Podcast, a show where I, Lewis, and my co-host Wem Southerner set out to explore a shared pedagogy. It's a space where cerebral thinking matters more than craptivities, where educational purpose outweighs pretty resources, and where inclusion is more than just a buzzword. Join us as we overthink the trivial, deep dive into whatever sparks our dopamine, and reflect on what it means to truly hold space for others, holistically and without judgment. Thanks for being here. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Okay, do you want to know the animal fact? This is the animal fact that I've learned, which messes with my head. You ready?
Yeah.
Ants evolved from wasps.
Is that true?
That's why some of them still fly. Ants are just wasps what decided to do ground things instead.
That's very cool. My son has a thing called Question of the Day. That's our jingle.
Okay.
He comes out with a question, like apropos of nothing, doesn't relate to anything that we've been talking about before. And it's usually something like, can I join the army of Norway and invade, just outlet,
Sure.
you know? Today, apropos of nothing, he was like, I need ants as pets. Can I get ants as pets? I need pet ants. And then we were talking about ants. And then my daughter said that there is an ant called a cow killer.
I think I've heard of this.
Looks like a wasp, but it's an ant. So that completely ties in with what you're saying. But she knew all about this cow killing ant that I just did not know about. And then I said, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, or to you, that a friend of mine went to a special animal place where they had some special, I think they were leafcutter ants, and there was an expert there that talked to them about the colony.
You did,
and there was
yes.
loads of whack stuff, including that the queen ant is the size of a mouse.
Oh, I hate that. Whenever they do a wildlife documentary and they do that thing where they pan inside an ant farm, like an ant colony, and you see the queen just bulbous and kind of like pulsating, you know, that thing, and like termites are the same, like that big,
and they farm the fungus.
They farm the fungus, and they also farm a lot of them farm aphids, don't they, as well? Ants.
Yes, milk the aphids.
Milk the aphids and
the honeydew.
Things like that. And yeah,
delicious.
They're just maybe we should get an ant
nice.
Expert in. Should we try and find an ant person to come and talk to us?
That would be so cool.
Anti things. Okay.
Right.
We'll end the podcast here. Goodbye, people. Enjoy. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Woman. That's not what we're talking about. I'm so tired.
I'm really tired too.
Tired.
Really tired. And I literally just said before I logged on, why am I so tired? There must be something wrong with me. And I think it is just January. I was driving my kids to school today. My whole family were in the car. And for the first time since my kids were toddlers, I actually had to stop the car in the middle of the road and went, can everyone just chill out and just be kind? Because it's January, it's dark, it's been raining for about 27 years. And I just can't take it anymore. Like, I've tried to kind of put myself in a protective shield, like that all the crap can just bounce off, and the shield just got penetrated with crap, and I couldn't take it anymore. It has been raining for 27 years. You've been working in the rain for 27 years. How's that been? Because it's end of days.
1 second, my microphone has done its dog it thing. Hang on. Yeah, it's this very, very wet. It's that thing of moving around in mud, and I know we say this all the time, but moving around in mud is extra hard. Every footstep takes 30% ish of your energy goes into the ground, and your boots are extra heavy, and moving is slower, and you have to wear different clothes, which is not always great. It's been, I tell you what, this last this week has been really interesting because it's not actually been difficult because of the rain. It's been difficult because of the runoff. So the sessions haven't been our site is fairly well catered in terms of, we've got the parachute, we've got a couple of lean-tos, we've got spaces to be when it's raining and when it's windy, and that's not really a problem. But so it was it rained pretty heavily on Wednesday, and it was whoa, that was pretty challenging. Ho ho ho. Came in on Thursday, and the runoff from Wednesday had just built
Mm.
up overnight to, an inch of rain across anywhere that was flat. And it was like,
Mm.
oh, it's not the beat. Often people think, oh, it must be hard to be out in the rain, and actually it's very manageable, I think, to be out in the rain. But to be out in slop
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like,
And
oh,
just the vibe is just not comfy or cozy or hospitable, is it? It's just like, because I remember some
yeah.
days in the rain, we would the kids would just instinctively like get all the blankets out and make a kind of camp,
Hmm.
like it was
Hmm.
nighttime, and like near the fire under the parachute, let us like strew the floor with blankets and make it like
Yeah.
we were in a log cabin, and let us tell stories and all this, and it was just actually quite lush.
Yeah.
But yeah, if every bit of floor is a bog, you can't do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and it just feels like you shouldn't be there. I just,
Yeah.
respect, man.
It's
Like, and just
it's
the vibe is hard.
it's very tiring, but I'm this is why, if people are watching this, I'm in a very oversized tracksuit. I'm just enjoying the like
Yeah.
comfiness of it. And I've
How are the tree roots holding out? Because this is the time of year where every forest school leader on a forum is like, oh my God, how do I get over the mud bath? It's like trashing the woods that we're tramping
mm,
through, and the tree roots becoming exposed. And our answer is always chopped up Christmas tree branches covered with wood chip,
yeah,
layer like a lasagna forever. And
yeah,
so that's been happening for many years now. Is that holding up, or is it bad?
absolutely holding up. There's one
Okay,
spot that
that's
I
good.
noticed this week, one tiny spot, and I mean over like 3 acre woods. I
Yeah.
mean a patch that is like 30 centimeter squared, where I saw some roots around a tree, and I was like, ah,
Hmm.
that is a high traffic area that's on a slope. It's going to be
Yeah.
that needs a bit more. But yeah, I think the work that we've done over the years to build up that like lasagnaing
Mm.
is definitely holding
Good.
holding its own.
Great.
Um, yeah, should we talk about? Can we talk about play? Can we talk about
Yeah.
play things?
Let's do it. Yes.
Grand.
Shall
Okay,
I? Shall I? Do you want to explain it, or shall I just read the message you sent me and then I'll
you
read the
read you
message?
read it, because then people can
Okay.
have a little peek behind the curtains of the stuff that
Okay.
you and I send each other.
Yeah.
This might have even been one that I sent at like I wasn't having a good night, and I think I might have sent you some messages at like I think it was like
Okay.
11. It was like 11 at night, and I just kind of sent you some messages like, "Hey, oh, how about this about play?" And you didn't reply until the morning, and just went, "Wow, you're up very late."
Yeah. Because usually you're like, I'm tucked up in bed by 6:30 in the evening, and then I get up at 4
You
a.m.
can
to do
imagine
all
me,
crazy crap.
listeners, tucked up like
Mm.
this. If you would like a little peek, this is a real behind the scenes peek.
Yeah.
When I sleep, when you like pull the duvet right up like this,
Yeah.
right, and you know that thing that people with long hair do, where they have to untuck their hair from the back of a hoodie.
You do that with your beard.
So I do the duvet up here, and then I just put my beard has this sort of slot over the top of the duvet like
Oh.
that, so that I'm a little face, and then the beard goes over the duvet.
And the beard blanket keeps your neck extra warm. I'm so jealous of that. My neck is like my vulnerable place. Like I need a scarf at all times. Anyway, I wonder, says Lewis Ames. This actually wasn't too late at night, I don't think.
Okay.
This is while you're setting up, actually. This is a message
Oh, that's
while
good
you're
of me.
setting up on a Wednesday morning. Or maybe just before. I wonder if there's an episode in discussing the knee jerk response adults sometimes have to suggest parallels in play to world events. I.e., Trump probably never had to share. This mud kitchen play is like X in a soup kitchen. This play over the treehouse is exactly like X war. Like treating the play as if it's a forecast for those kids becoming the world events we see in the future, but also how we balance the fact that we as adults are sensitive to the news that we see. Discussion and exploration. And I said, yeah. I also have one to add or extend. Play as part of childhood is often seen as preparation or training for adult life and or linked to evolution. If this wasn't true, what else is play and how can we value it? So, I mean, just such a straightforward topic there, right?
We'll just
Just
knock this
like
out.
cut
20
to the
minutes,
chase.
easy,
And so
done.
useful, just so accessible for people that if they're tuning in for the first time, they can be like, yeah, this is such a useful podcast that I'm just going to subscribe to. It's going to like help my life as an outdoor practitioner. Anyway, do you want to talk about what kind of
Yes,
prompted
yes, yes,
you
yes, yes,
to send that?
yes. So I was thinking about, like, you will have seen I've been putting more and more of these like little explainer videos up on the work social media things of, here's how we would treat this, or here's how this thing. And I spend a bit of time sometimes curating the comments to because some stuff like that, it just knee jerks people's responses, and they're not engaging debate conversation. It's just like poo poo, you fart head. And so I do a bit of curating, and I was noticing this pattern about people. Any time that you might suggest something, like, the sharing thing is obviously a slightly radical approach that we have in terms of people not needing to share and all this stuff, and how quickly people will transpose. It's like in a pop psychology kind of way of like, I bet this approach is why X person in the news that I don't like is the way that they are, despite the fact that that person probably didn't go through a radical kind of unschooling alternative education thing that we're
Mm,
presenting. People very quickly extrapolate anything. It's like, yeah, and I do think it's a pop psychology thing of trying to work out, like, why are the people in the news that we do or don't like the way that they are. And I bet I could pull that back to, it's like, I bet I could simplify that and be like, I bet they never had to share their toys, or like, I bet they were I bet their private school education makes them the way that they are, despite the fact that some people go to private school are like indifferent to those people. But we want to find, it's that thing of people wanting to find, I think, the like a root cause, like a singular issue or a singular experience that explains the whole belief system and attitude of an adult, positively or negatively, you know, uh, because that makes, like, in the positive senses, that makes for a really nice, heartfelt story. A taxi driver. I was watching a thing the other day about the taxi driver tradition of not charging for rides to Great Ormond Street in London because that's a
okay.
children's hospital, and
Mm,
people saying, a taxi driver didn't charge my mum, and when I was 7, and it's changed my life forever. I will forever respect taxi drivers and all this. And like, it builds a compelling narrative to point one experience, and then be like, and I'm a wonderful person now because of it, or the other way, and being like, oh, I bet they were bullied about X. I bet that person didn't
mm,
got bullied about how their hair looked when they were 10, and
mhm,
now they're somebody that attacks other people's appearances, and we can draw a direct straight line. That's
mm.
how simple humans are. Here's a pinpointed childhood experience. That's the outcome. And like, whether that I just don't think it is a healthy way to sort of view, and really, like, it's not fair on the people that we're talking about, because we're reducing them down to like a single experience that we're trying to say, like, well, if we could change that, the whole thing would be different. But also that we are potentially people are talking about young people now and what they're doing, and forecasting and being like, like prophesizing and be like, you're going to end up doing that. You're going to end up down a bad path, or you're going to end up down a good path, or you're going to end up.
So is that what you meant when you're saying that if you're talking about kind of play that we might observe at forest school, like this play in the mud kitchen reminds me of such and such a real world event with adults involved right now?
Mm.
Are you saying that some people are thinking, and that means because you're playing that way, you're going to end up like that later on? Or are you talking about kind of we shouldn't allow that type of play because it's too close to these world events that we're seeing right now? Like, what was that nugget in your head when you were like, this mud kitchen play reminds me of such and such?
I think it's both, but possibly more the first kind, where people are worried that if you have an experience in childhood and you enjoy it, that you will then replicate that experience forever. So there's a video I put up ages ago, which is still doing like fairly good traffic, where I was talking about people some people were in the mud kitchen playing, hey, we're running a cafe, and some people wanted to be burglars, right? And they come and take all the things. And the point of the video is me saying, like, I didn't go and demonize the burglars and say, like, you're bad, you're doing this and whatever else, And I just went, let's how do we make this everybody's play needs, da 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 da. And so that's a really good example, I think, of where people would then be like, that if they enjoy it, we would never let that happen, because those kids are going to go and learn that they can steal whenever they want, and they're going to steal when they're teenagers, and they're going to steal when they're adults, and steal with it, which I don't believe is true. To be like, oh, did you enjoy an experience? You will do that now forever,
Mm.
despite the consequences or the implications being different at different life
It's very
stages.
behaviourist, isn't it? It's very, yeah. And it's interesting that you're talking about this now, because I went to see a comedian this week, and I really like her. I don't know how much to disclose about, like,
We can always beep it out.
okay. So, well, I think it's fair enough. Like, I went to see Bridget Christie, who I really love and I really respect her. I really love her work, but she had this bit in there about obviously she's starting, like, the world's a terrifying place right now. There's a lot of, like, very powerful men doing some really scary stuff,
Mm.
and men in general doing some scary stuff. And then she told the story about, like, being at a friend's kid's birthday party, and a little boy who was like 2 or 3, like, this story might be completely made up, obviously, as part of
Sure,
her
sure.
thing, like, bringing in a poo on a plate, giving it to his older sister whose birthday it was, and going, "Happy birthday, you are a poo and I hate you." And she was like, which was quite funny. And then she was like, and the mum responded by going, "Okay, okay, little Billy, let's put that poo where it belongs, in the toilet. There we go." Rather than completely losing it and being like, "This is unacceptable. You're walking around naked from your waist down, presenting a poo to your sister on a plate." And she was like, "This is the problem. This is why we're ending up with the Donald Trumps of the world and the men who kill their partners of the world, because these young boys are allowed to walk around naked, half naked, presenting a poo on a plate, and they don't get told off. And some kids are just horrible." And I was like, that's kind of interesting. Like,
Mm.
if you are just saying this as a joke, then that's fine. But if there is a kernel of stuff that you believe in there, like, I'm really challenged by that. And it kind of is similar to what you're saying, right? Isn't it? It's like, it's all down to the parenting, it's all down to the childhood experiences, it's all down to the reactions of the people around you that mean that puts you on that path forever. And and it's the kids' fault as well, because they enjoyed
Mhm.
it. Like, some kids are just evil, some kids just want to do that bad stuff. And I think that actually is quite a surprisingly commonly held belief. I have spoken to a lot of people, just random people, who just go,
Mhm.
"Well, some kids are just bad, some kids are just evil,
Yeah.
they just are sadistic, they just enjoy other people's pain,
It's real
that's
fixed
just it."
mindset, isn't it?
It
And
is, and
yeah.
you need to, and you can probably kind of metaphorically beat it out of them by responding in the right way when they do that. Like, in other words, like, punish them until they get the message that that behavior is unacceptable.
Well, it simplifies a worldview, doesn't it? Because just thinking, right, you're hearing these thoughts for the first time. I am as well. If you believe that there are, like, people who are inherently bad or inherently evil, then you can then justify punishment instead of education, because you can say that there is no education to be had for these people. They will not change, they cannot be changed, and therefore whatever punishment I want to dole out to them is the appropriate response. But also wrapped up in there is, like, all those feelings of, like, retribution and, uh like meting out justice by being like, if you were like, oh, they should be punished because they're bad people, and that's the only way they'll learn. And sometimes I want to be like, and is it slightly that you would feel better seeing someone that's made you sad get made sad as well? Is that
Totally.
a
And
bit about
also,
it?
you can't punish Donald Trump or the equivalent. So here's your little microdose of feeling like you've got some control by punishing a small
Yes,
child
yes,
whose
yes, yes,
behavior
yes. And
reminds
that's
you
and
of that
that's what I
person.
would. That's what was in my message about like being sensitive to the fact that we as adults might be seeing and hearing in the news around us particularly challenging examples of like somebody not being punished or somebody taking, not acknowledging the privileges that they have, people making others not feel safe. And so when we see examples of that we are in control of, that or that we are responsible for, that we can have these like hair trigger moments of like
Yes.
it's similar to that thing that is in um oh no, Alice Sheldon's book about the
Yeah.
fingerprint needs, but they are like almost transient fingerprint needs, because it's like culturally the fingerprint need at the moment might be trust or justice or whatever else. And so that's not going to be something that everyone in this country has with them for the rest of their lives, but it is something that right now people are very sensitive to. And we
Yes.
could be it could be unfortunate if children's play, which is kind of for a lot of time, unless it's play therapy where someone's playing out something they've heard with the news, for a lot of children's play, it exists in a bubble outside of the real world, but that it cannot avoid being influenced by the fact that there are adults who are like, yeah, I'm not seeing enough justice, and so when I see injustice in the play, I'm very sensitive, and I can fix that. I do have control over that, and that makes me feel
Yes.
good about myself.
And also, I'm sure that I've definitely felt this both at work and in parenting, that you're that it might not even be as sort of subliminal and subconscious as that and as personal as that. It might actually be come from a place of reflection and good intentions, that
Hmm.
we might think, okay, right, there's this stuff in the world that is really messed up, and I am maybe in this job, or because I see myself as having a responsibility and perhaps a good ability to communicate with young people and children and to help them on a path that might bring them happiness, success, might contribute
Hmm.
to a fairer society, all the rest of it. So we might feel that pressure upon ourselves that actually it's our duty to intervene and to stop this play that is maybe antisocial in some way, or reminding us of this bigger social injustice,
Hmm.
because it's our duty to stop those kids becoming that way, or to stop kids seeing that kind, even like, even if we're not talking about like a perceived perpetrator in play, we're talking about
Hmm.
kids observing a type of play that we find triggering. We're like, oh, for their sake, like we need to stop this. We need everything to be nice and fair and kind. And it's not even about a personal hair trigger that we're not aware of. It's about, right, that is part of my job. And
Hmm.
so that is so complex, isn't it? That is so complex. And how we try to be kind to ourselves as well, about like our intentions might be good, and how we kind of separate those things. And then if we do separate those things, going back to kind of what I said, what is play then, and how might we respond? Say we were working together and we're observing some play that
Hmm.
maybe one of us finds kind of triggering in some way, like, oh, I'm not really sure about this. Like, we've had these moments,
Yeah.
right, haven't we?
Oh,
We've had
sure.
like
For
moments
sure.
around observing like play that's particularly military, or particularly seems like that somebody is being quite oppressive in inverted
Hmm.
commas of other
Hmm.
people, and you're like, is this okay? Are these people willing participants? These are the kind of elements of play that in our work we are sensitive to, we're aware of, we're monitoring, we're thinking, do we need to step in to make sure that we're protecting everybody's needs and holding those needs with care? Say we had a moment like that, and one of us is worried about it, and the other and might say a sentence a bit like you sent me, like, oh, this really reminds me of this, and I'm really worried about that. How, and if the other one of us was really secure in the belief, this is just play, this is not
Mm.
leading that kid down that path, this is reminding you of real world events, but actually if you listen closely, the kids aren't doing that,
Hmm.
or I think it's okay, or say we were at work and a parent was voicing a concern, but we were quite confident that at the moment things are okay. Like, what kind
Mm.
of scripts, I wonder, might we devise
I
to respond to that?
yes, I know. I think I know what you mean, and I think there's a. I'm not sure of the scripts. I wonder if it's a an intentional reframing,
Yeah.
which is looking at those things and um so let's okay, let's choose a let's stick on this kind of oppressive. Maybe somebody's seeing some stuff and they're like, that's exactly what Trump is doing,
Mm,
and so we can't allow that. Now, that's a not that is not a reason to step in and adulterate some play.
mm,
The same reasons but if you can pick a level behind that and go, what this world leader is doing is making other people sad. That's why I don't like it. Then you can look for that and say, and is this play making other people sad? Because that's something that I can step in on. I'm not going to step in and be like,
mm,
because it's like XYZ. I'm stepping in because the people in this space that it directly affects are having a negative experience, an extended negative experience because
mm,
of that. I'm not interested in whether that looks, because that's how you end up with like the boogeyman. Do you know what I mean? Like this is
mm,
bad because you end up with that like internet thing of like, well, that's just what Hitler did. That's just what, we shouldn't let kids do art because Hitler did art, because
mm,
these things, and that's, and you lose any sense of rational critique because it starts to just be about person in the news I don't like or person in the news I do like. You're speaking exactly in the way that this politician that I do agree with speaks, and so I'm pleased with that, even though it's making some other children upset.
mm,
I agree with this kind of thing, and so like, but that's what I mean about reframing, which is that like the comparing it to adult news worries me because it creates boogeymen that we haven't explored the reasons behind. But if you
yeah.
just unpick it and go, but right now, the kids that they are talking to and the kids that are watching this play, are they all okay? What is the experience
Mm,
that they are having? That is something that I am responsible for. That is something that I can have input in if I choose to, or that I have a responsibility over. And that's a very different thing to being like, does this resonate with what the current news cycle is making me feel?
mm.
Does
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I think there's another layer to that about reminding oneself that the behavior in the moment does not define the character of the person later on. Going back to what we said
Yeah.
earlier, that even that you might go, okay, well, hang on, check myself. Is everybody okay? Is the reaction of the other people involved in this play uh, actually the same as the reaction of the people in this other adult world? In which case, yeah, I'm reminded of it because there's good reason, and we can try to make this community actually work where
Hmm.
this other outside real world community isn't functioning. But you could say, oh no, everyone's okay, but I've still got a fear, and my worry, and I'm thinking about this with parenting a lot at the moment, about like um that permissive thing, and like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I'm let even though these people appear to be okay, I'm still allowing this person to play this role. And maybe that's really bad of me to allow that person to play that
Hmm.
role because, like the old fashioned term might be spoiled, that child has become spoiled in inverted commas because they've been allowed to use that voice, use those words, behave in that way. If we're going to continue with this like oppressor role that the child
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah. We're
playing.
talking about how, yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's almost like, how you and I would have a word for like process, not product, if
Hmm.
one of us was, and then it's almost like a phrase to ourselves to be like, stop, like you're projecting or something like that. I don't know if projecting is the right word,
It's
but
not
like,
quite there, is it? Though it's to do with sensitivity and a justifiable sensitivity, because there's, so I think wrapped up in that permissive thing is also a feeling of responsibility to model standing up for something.
mm,
There's a maybe there's somebody who is becoming, their play is becoming spoiled in whatever terms, and you might feel a responsibility to the other members of the group to be like, I should really model that I don't think that's okay. You know, I should model challenging that, because that's a useful skill to sometimes model, is challenging someone's things. And that's where I think it's very different to be like, look at, again, peeling it down and being like, is this a pirate captain on the boat who is being a bossy pirate captain? And I've projected on all my stuff of like, you're being a big tech CEO who's not listening to their workers. And I'm going to secretly talk about a union. Hey guys, do you know what a fucking union is? Hey, listen to this. Right. That's a very...
We've both blatantly done that.
Listen, if none of us work on the fucking cannons, they can't get anything done. But which is sometimes you might throw that play grenade in as a kind of like, let's see what happens with this. Fucking enjoy, kids.
And it's so fun. Like if one of us hasn't done it, some other kid has definitely done it. A bit like that game that ended up being about drug smuggling by accident.
Oh no.
Hang on a minute. This game started off about being like, how many stones can we get to the safe place?
Yeah.
Now it's about the EU border patrol. But anyway, that was not us. We didn't suggest that.
No. But what was I saying? What was the point before I started talking about social hand grenades?
We were talking about
modeling, that you want to model,
yes.
you want to stand up to the thing.
Yeah.
And so but then one of the things that I then have to unpick in there is like, how much of a non-judgmental approach is it if I believe that by me standing up and being like, I personally don't believe, like in that moment, I am using hierarchy to my advantage to be like, I will do this. Whereas a much more non-judgmental approach and a much more, I would like to think a much more progressive approach is just to be that voice that goes in and checks in and goes, how are you guys feeling about, like, I just wanted to check in with you guys on the status of the union and how, to check in and go,
on
hey,
the workers' rights.
How is everybody's...
Have you checked your contracts recently? Just going to say that. Going to leave that there.
You see this area that someone's built a den. Now, do you know the word enclosures? Because I was wondering if anybody... really start digging up some sort of social history bits.
Yeah. If any of you guys need a spade or a pitchfork, they're in the cabin. Just let me know. Yeah.
Next to the red flags. If you could get the red flags out, if you hit sickles, you've gone too far by most people's standards.
Bill hook, fine. Sickle, no. Oh my god. Yeah. So, okay, I like these ideas. What about taking it a step further and going, just like, this is like philosophically, theoretically speaking, if like, we can't know the answer to this, but if play, going back to my point about if play isn't there for the purpose of developing you into a great adult, if it's not, if that isn't the reason for play, like you're practicing everything you're going to need later on in life, and that's the only reason that humans, or indeed any other animal that plays, because that is a theory that it's about evolution, and that like other mammals play because they are practicing fighting, for example, or practicing hunting. And in Brian Sutton Smith's book, which I've forgotten the name of right now, it might be The Importance of Play, I don't know, he talks about all these theories and then finds evidence that disproves that theory. So he's like, actually, they studied animals and they found that lion cubs that were particularly like playful with their brothers and sisters and did a lot of fighty play did not turn out to be the most successful hunters, the most successful fighters. They actually became like the most peaceful, or there was no correlation.
Okay.
All of these things, right? So if you could just like and you can't totally disprove it, but if you were going to put
Hmm.
that theory in the bin
Hmm.
for now, for the purpose of this conversation, like how would you value or defend or talk about play just as a thing that exists rather than its preparation for adult life?
Okay, I have an idea, and
Go for it.
we'll pick it out because I'm not 100% sure from it.
Hmm.
So, what if okay, so oh god, tangent, and then I'll get there. So you and I have both known kids through our work where you meet those kids and you're like, you're gonna be really happy and self-actualized once you become an adult, but you're not going to
Mhm.
enjoy being a kid. This
Mhm.
doesn't work for you because of the society around being a child, because of the
Mhm.
limitations of your own like physicality or your own understanding. You're just not built for being a kid. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're, if you could, you'd be a cracking adult right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the system. Okay, so if we assume that lots of lots of young people have that internally, then you could assume that moving through childhood, and I think I can't remember where the quote it comes from, but there's a quote I've heard which is like, childhood is constantly wanting more responsibility than you can handle.
Mhm.
We are always reaching for that, right? And so that's constant knockback, that's constant no's, that's constant you're not getting there, that's constant you can't have what you wanted in your lunchbox, or we can't go and do that group that you wanted to do. Da 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 da. Okay, and if you didn't have play as a way to inject dopamine into your day, you would become depressed beyond the point of not functioning.
Mm.
So the reason for little moments of play outside of all this kind of preparation as an adult thing is that like getting in the car and putting my seatbelt on sucks and is hard. So if I make a helicopter noise on the way there, I've shot a bit of dopamine into my brain, and my experience is more um like tolerable. I don't even want it.
Mm.
Maybe it's not even getting to enjoyable. It's just tolerable if I do this. If I am moving through and I'm having a tricky time with this kind of maths that's been set in front of me in a lesson,
Mm.
then getting my rubber to do little skateboard tricks on the desk is a way of like, from a evolutionary and a like a survival point of view, being like, if I don't get some dopamine, if I don't get some serotonin, some enjoyment, this is going to emotionally stomp me in the face.
Mm.
And that is why we can have this kind of play stuff, and that it might not always be like enjoyable. It might not be the happy go lucky play that we always see. It might not be the play that adults would like to see. But what do you think about that idea that play is there to inject tolerance
Mm.
dopamine and tolerance serotonin into our childhood
Mm.
experience?
Yes, I think that's an interesting point. I wonder if that's still kind of on the evolution train and still about
Oh, I
like,
wasn't trying to get off that train, but sure. Yeah, yeah,
okay, like human development, like it enables us to continue living and it's got a function.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
I guess, I mean, I'm trying to go like quite abstract here, I think. Like, I guess I guess if we were a bit like, you know, how you say about the thing that really gets your goat about the way some people talk about forest school is as an intervention
Hmm.
to make that kid more successful at academic stuff. Like
Yes, yes,
we
yes,
use
yes.
forest school, and that kind of devalues the forest school, and it just makes it like it's a means to an end. And that's kind of what I'm trying to explore with play. Like if we look at play
I see.
as beyond a means to an end, actually, what do we value about it right now? Because it comes along with this baggage, which we've all been impregnated with, which is
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
well, I mean, you can, some people will believe this, and I'm just exploring. I'm trying to unpick the stuff that I've been
We
told
we are
by the
shooting the breeze.
world.
We are doing all these
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So, what if children are not just mini adults on a journey to becoming adults? What if they are actually human animals and they this moment in their life, the bit of their life right now is
Mm,
as important and as valuable and as valid as their lives when they're adults. And I think that's actually quite a radical thought in
sure.
our current society. So these children are citizens. They're not citizens in waiting. They exist right now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. This is a,
And
this
it's
is
not
a,
it's
whoa,
it's
okay.
challenging,
It
right?
really is. Yeah, it
Because you really
really
realize
is.
you've been conditioned into just thinking that. Even if you think you don't think that, you do, because we're
Hmm.
thinking, oh, it's really important that kids get the chance to do risky play, because when they're adults, they'll be able to take risks in a
Hmm.
healthy way. What about if you try to cleanse all of those ideas out of your mind, and you're literally just like,
I keep
because
opening
then,
different doors and it's the same room inside.
yeah,
I keep going, no, it's this, and then I open the door, it's the same fucking room of going,
yeah,
yeah, because then later on I go, shit, shut that
yeah,
door. Okay.
I
Well,
know. Yeah, and even the thing of like, oh, it helps us to be able to deal with this. Like, it might be true, but if we're just trying to think about this other idea, like they are, so then how do we value play? Which comes down to like really basic things, like for a child playing with some other children in the woods, that is like really stimulating and really fun, and that's how you make friends, and that's where you have freedom, which it kind of touches on to what you're saying about like putting your seatbelt on is boring, being told what to do is boring. Like that is an end unto itself, that you have that ability to choose what you say to that person in that time, to respond to what somebody else says to you, to feel the sensation of rolling down the hill. Like that is enough. It's not just preparation for, it's not just
yeah,
developing our internal sensory interoception. It's like, yeah, it might be, that might be a byproduct, but that's not what it's for. And that isn't just why we should allow it. We should value it because these people are alive and it's worth them having a satisfying, enriching, varied experience right now.
yeah. Which I totally agree with. But I also find my brain going back to that's because,
Mm.
which is that's very challenging. How dare you bring me challenge when I'm tired from mud? How fucking dare you?
This is why
Um,
my brain has been hurting this week.
no,
It's been
this is
hurting
good.
so much.
I'm enjoying this dynamic relationship of you have lots of high concept thoughts, and then you teach them to the mud monster who goes, eh? What?
It's not teaching though, because it's just like, what do you think about that? And
What do I think
then
about
when
that?
like,
I truly. Okay, here's one of my genuine thoughts about like the
yeah,
reaction to that, which is that like I genuinely do believe that it is valuable because I also believe that all of that stuff I said earlier about making the car trip tolerable, making the day,
mm,
is also what I believe about adult play, and that
mm,
adults going to sports clubs, adults going to craft clubs, that I also believe that is a strategy for adults to make their experience of the world being tolerable. Do you know what I mean? So
mm,
everything I said, I also I don't think that kids are
yeah,
like learning to make their experience tolerable. I
yeah,
think that is how humans make their experience tolerable. It's also kind of, people do their games where like, I'm going to see if I can hold my breath from this tube station to the next one.
mm,
And if I do,
yeah,
I win £1 million in my head, right? That kind of stuff. It keeps us all going, right? Or like, oh, saw a yellow card, better smack your sibling as hard as you can. These are tiny bits of dopamine that I believe
mm,
does the thing. However, what I don't think you can do is publicly advertise a business under capitalism with that
mm.
belief for front and center. I do, because of the system that capitalism is, it forces us.
It's just been trying to invent a strapline like Children of the Forest because it's fucking fun.
It goes, children of the forest inject dopamine, and then
But
it's,
that still means to an end. The inject
is it
dopamine is still,
survive?
yeah, because it's still, it's, yeah, it's evolutionary. It's like it fulfills a function. which is scientific and provable and measurable. Like I could take, if I could, take a blood test and look at the hormones in your blood right now, it shows it's got a purpose. Whereas I'm because like those adult play examples you gave, we would
But you
never
just said,
say,
but you said that play was for children because it was stimulating and it's where you make friends. And I've just boiled that to the next step, which is dopamine and serotonin
chemicals.
and oxytocin.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just,
guess that's the neuroscience. I agree. I agree with these
we agree
things.
with each other. We're just
I'm
angry.
just
We're
no,
just angry with each other while we
I'm not
agree.
angry. Look at me, I'm smiling. Like I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to have a philosophical discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I guess there's like the neuroscience angle of looking at play, there's the psychology angle of looking at play, and I get maybe I'm talking about like a more spiritual and slightly more woo-woo way of looking at play. I'm
Sure.
just
Okay.
trying it on as a
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
see
yeah.
what it's like.
How does it feel?
And then we might, because we wouldn't say about an adult doing any of those playthings that you imagined, oh, they're doing that so that in later life
Hmm.
they'll be way better at using their Zimmer frame. Like they won't get. I guess actually no, we do a little bit like we play Wordle so we don't get Alzheimer's. Those kinds. So we
Yeah.
do actually do it with adults
Yeah.
too. That it's not enough to just be a thing that we just do
That
because
there has to be, okay, is what you're exploring there that there has to be some sort of future benefit as opposed to purely this could
mm,
exist in the moment and there would be no positive or negative effects uh, from this moment, from after this moment, and how do you value something which has no
mm,
implication on the future? Is that the bit you're getting?
yes,
Is that
I
where we're
think
going?
so. I think so. I think it's maybe it's about like could you look at it as there is there is like joy or there is creation or there is like energy created in that moment and that's a good thing even like and it's not and it's kind of going beyond the human a little bit, this is going really wacky, right?
Okay.
That it's a moment like at forest school it's a moment of connection between one human being or some human beings and the more than human world. That is just a beautiful thing no matter
Mm.
where it goes or whether it has no future implications. It's like a like magic. It's like that. Like I'm just going spiritual woo to try it out, see what it's like.
I know what you mean. Just because that is a uh, there is something, and I think this is something that is possibly unexplored. But in that sense of like, I'm with you because I don't necessarily love. I sort of have a bit of a thing about woo woos, and like I'm
Mm,
very naturey. I'm very whatever. I'm not particularly woo woo. It's not a
mm,
poncho that I like to wear. Um, but there is something about like it is pleasurable for an individual to be in a space where happy play is taking place, even if you are not involved. It is
yeah,
infectious, right?
yeah,
I don't think anyone would deny that. That like if you stood in a place where two people were, it doesn't matter what the play is, pretending to be pirates or pretending or like playing chess really enthusiastically or like that is from a bystander's point of view, that has an effect on you. I don't know what that
yeah,
effect is, but it has a
yeah.
physiological like, oh, I like being here, right? Which is that's a thing, right?
Mm,
Okay. But then I do think that is connected to the reverse of that, which is like sticky play makes me feel uncomfortable. I love
mm-hmm.
being in a space where Peter Pan is sprinkling fairy dust on some younger children, and like there's a little troop of them are walking off and they're playing following the leader, and oh, my heart feels special when the union starts forming and then there's a splinter group because there's another thing going on and there's a debate about who actually even owns the tree house and is it who
See, I
built it.
love that too. I love
Right.
that too.
But you have to acknowledge that that's a different physiological effect being near it for a lot of people. For a lot
Yeah,
of people, that
yeah,
is a component of their like, I should step in and solve this. Is
mm,
the that like almost a self-serving thing of like, oh, I don't like being in a space of conflict. I feel happier
Yeah.
when there's happy stuff going on around me.
Yeah.
And that's a, like, that is a tangible, the happy, the conducive, the lovely bit of that stuff. I think you could then get to your point where you're justifying that, like, in this moment, even with no future effects, that is a positive of play, is that it makes the people in it and the people around it feel good for that moment.
Yeah, I can't, but I would extend that even to when it doesn't necessarily make you feel good. It's still positive. Like almost like it's like that is what living is. You know, the definition of play, and I can't remember who wrote it, which is play is what I do when no one's telling me what to do.
Hmm.
Like it's the default. It's just living, and living like life is good. Like life, like play is like life force. It's like the time where you're not doing what you're not doing something as a means to an end. You're not doing something because that's not to say you can't play along the way, like the kind of play you're talking
Hmm.
about. Like I have to make this journey, so I'm going to make it fun with this thing. But like open-ended play at forest school is just it's just because it's chosen
Hmm.
and it's accepted and it's allowed, and obviously it's got constraints based on the like stuff that you have and the people that are there and the weather and all these kind of things.
Hmm.
But I kind of feel like it's just like the close, like it's just life, like it's just existing, and most people would rather exist than not exist, and
Do
most
you
people think that life is good,
do you
like
think
living is good.
that uh okay, I'm going to make a statement and you tell me how you feel about this. I'm trying to get it in exactly the right words. I'm not going to make it. There's something, okay, so we take that moment of like completely free chosen play
Mm,
is the only experience where you can know who you yourself truly are, because of the level
mm,
of introception, the level of like, I don't mean introception like, do I need a wee, am I thirsty, you know, is this fart going to come
mm.
out nicely. I mean the like, I mean the level of like the level that is like outside of, it's not a football match, it's not somebody else's drama game, it's not whatever else, what that moment that you've just described of what you do when nobody is watching,
Nobody is telling you what to do.
nobody's telling you what to do, sorry, when nobody's telling you what to do, that is the point where you see your true self come
Mm,
out, because outside, because in every other places you are, if you want to use a really strong word, masking, if you want to use a
mm.
slightly different term, you're like influenced. But in that
You
moment
are
when no one,
socialized.
yes, but in that moment when no one is telling you what to do, you learn about yourself. And
Mm,
is that a value
mm.
in the moment, or
Yeah.
but that also, but that does have value in the future, because
Mm.
that is like, but
I guess it comes
just to
down to
explore
like
that
how
for a
you.
minute, because I don't think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
necessarily like, just because we're about to valuing something in the future, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I do really love that idea that like the more time you get to play, the more time you get to learn about yourself, which means that as a
Mm,
person that's carrying on in the world, and this was also true about like play as adults, you know, with the sports clubs that
mm,
we go to, the little games that we play in our head, if you
mm,
tune into them as kind of like information, maybe not communication, but
mm,
information, that you could then be like, oh, I'm learning about myself, which helps me set
mm.
myself up for success in the future.
Yeah. I was just thinking when you were talking about that about because also I want to talk about like being with other like okay, what about like when animals play? So like
Hmm.
when I play with my dog, I'm not in any way thinking, oh, this is really good because it's like preparing my dog for life in the future. I might sometimes go, this is really good because it means that he'll be tired and he won't bark at me later. Like I might be thinking of that. But in the moment, he and I are communicating with one another and bonding with one another and doing something that is just like positive
Hmm.
in the moment. And we don't apply this weird kind of, oh, what's it for? What's the purpose to animals? And we wouldn't, and we'd also have
Oh,
that
I
kind of
disagree.
like,
I disagree.
you
No, I
think?
disagree. I disagree that because I think there's a lot of conversation where we talk about the like, and this is true with animals, and I think also with young people, where people talk about like well, that originally would have been to help them hunt, but now
Mm.
it's serving the
Yeah, yeah.
purpose of bonding. Or like that play
Mm.
originally was about tracking animals, but now it's,
Mm.
you know, um, I was reading something the other day where I was reading about, hide and seek, it potentially being the most universal of
Yeah,
games,
saw that.
but that also is like incredibly scary to think about, because as a species, we've basically realized that like from a very young age we need to learn how to hide our young, that it is beneficial for our children to
Mm.
hide from predators or from other humans, that you need to practice that skill before anything else. That is the skill
Mm.
that we will teach you. um and that's what that's a, you could be like, but
Yeah,
now it's about play and about socializing and about whatever else. But
yeah,
you could then also go, but kind of ancestrally, this is where that need
yeah,
has
yeah.
sat, and whether we're misapplying or whether we're just redistributing those needs, or whether we are, but I think that is a danger. That path kind of worries me, because I think it leads down to the kind of bioessentialism and kind of that kind of, I don't like that avenue of like, well, we're just, this, and we need to gene pools and, you know gender
Totally,
traits and that
totally.
bullshit, which
And
is
I
not
think that's
true.
what's making me think of this stuff because I think the answer is there is no answer, and it's kind of like a bit of all of those things, a bit like
Hmm.
knowledge about all of these theories, about like where something came from ancestrally, about neuroscience and what it might be doing to our brains, and why that might be healthy for us in many ways, physically and emotionally. Like all of this like goes into this big pot and it's mixed around, and that is like what it means to work with play
Hmm.
and with children, and it's all helpful, but I kind of want to add like a dollop of like just because to
Mm.
that pot. Like it's got
Mm.
like yes, all those things, and also we can just add a massive ice cream scoop of
It's
just
good, isn't it?
because.
It's just good, isn't it?
It's just good. It's just good. It's better than it not happening. It's good that those, yeah, going back to that thing about children are citizens right now,
Hmm.
and if that's what they want to do, then that's cool. Like it's just cool. It's just good. That boils down a very like
Well, no,
crazy
I do.
conversation into an overly simplistic statement, I think. But
But I do understand, and then that's that's then very challenging, isn't it, to then take that back to go full circle, and somebody playing out something that might really trigger our kind of like, someone's evicting another group from all of the dens and saying,
mm.
this is our space, and we want to use all of this, to look at that, and as adults to be like, it's just good, isn't it? It's just good, isn't it? And I'm being very flippant there,
Yes,
but
yes,
there's
yes.
it's like, the it's just good in it dollop is always
Oh, it's
there,
just because. It's
is
just
all
because
it's
maybe
always
is a bit.
there, and it's like, but the other, all the other reasons that we're talking about practicing things and about socializing and about whatever else, those come in to support it when it doesn't look and feel nice.
Yes,
When
yes,
it looks and feels nice, it's easy to be like, that's just good, isn't it? And when it's
yeah,
not nice, we need all the other ingredients to come in and support, to back it up.
yeah,
Maybe.
maybe, yeah, yeah. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have engaged in this conversation today. My brain like had just stopped hurting, and now it hurts again.
Well,
No, love it, love it.
it's very
Very interesting.
it's brought me back
Very
out of my
interesting.
mud depression. Actually,
Yay!
very much enjoyed it.
Um, have we got any? Oh no, it's fine. I was going to say, do we want to like talk about any future episodes? But
Oh,
I think it's
upcoming
always
things. I know. If on the subject of upcoming things, level 3 is open to book for September. I'm soft launching this pedagogy week in August, which is if you want to come and spend a week and chat in the woods, about if this is like, all of these juicy childcare chats about play and things, and you want to come. I'm sort of taking provisional bookings. We're going to see if we hit the right number by Easter, and then we will make a decision from there whether we're able to go ahead. We've already got a few. but it would be great to have a few more people who are interested in coming down for a week. What else is going on? I would like to put a shout out that if you know of conferences, things that you think, oh, do you know what? Lewis and Wem need to get down there. We are both. I hope you don't mind me throwing you under the bus with me.
Yeah.
We are not good at organising our calendar very far in advance, and I often see shows come up like, "Oh, the education show is up in Birmingham in 2 weeks," and I go, "In 2 weeks, that's not enough time."
Yeah.
But, or if there's a playworking conference and it's
fungi festival.
the fungi festival. If you listen, if you are at all things. If you are working for all things fungi, please would you love us and help us pay for tickets. But things like that, if you have things on your calendar that you're like, these two wonks need to get down there, please could you email us? You can email admin@theforestschoolpodcast.com. You can send us stuff on social media. Any of the Children of Forest accounts will all get to us. I really want to try and find these things ahead of time because we are both last minute planners. But
yes,
very much.
And then it helps you daydream of happier, sunnier, funner times than this bleak January.
Yeah, but today's made me feel not so bleak.
Yay!
I like it.
Great.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome. Oh, thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.